Today, my guest is former WWE developmental wrestler, Mr. Stephen Good. Stephen, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. No complaints on my end here in Texas. How are you doing?
Well, I'm in Indiana, so it's hit and miss. It's rain, snow, heat. It changes every day.
I gotcha.
So,
No, we're pretty set on heat right now.
oh.
It's the oven's not turning off anytime soon in August.
So growing up, was sports a part of your life?
Absolutely. I grew up watching wrestling, but where I went to school in Paris, Texas, they didn't have a wrestling program. The only thing, besides being a Baptist was football. So, if anybody's familiar with East Texas, it's religion and then football. So I got started football pretty early, probably like the third grade, and that was my life, through college and a little bit afterwards. So I was very fortunate to go on after high school and play at University of Oklahoma, and that's where I got to meet good old Jr.
So how was that
And
experience? Was football like so growing up doing football, was football what you were focused on? Is that just what your career was going to be, you thought?
yeah, it just kind of it definitely fell that way. I mean, especially with Oklahoma, giving me a scholarship. I wasn't going to get a scholarship for anything else, so that was the direction I had to go. So definitely just rode that train, and I enjoyed football. It's grab people, throw them down when you can. I played offensive line, so it's very it's a wrestling match sometimes between the whistles. So when I was recruit and I was being recruited and going to these different schools, I was sitting in the back of the end zone and I recognized Jim Ross.
Hmm.
And I knew he was, an Oklahoma fan watching wrestling, but I didn't realize that he was always at the games. And I really wanted to talk to him. And luckily, somebody that was with him came up to me and he was like, "Hey, because the recruiting rules right now, Jim Ross knows who you are. He wants to talk to you, but he can't." But he invited me to his restaurant there in Norman back when he
Hmm.
had the barbecue spot. So me and my dad went there. We saw all the old wrestling memorabilia, and it just sparked up all over again. And by the time the conversation was over, he said, "Well, whenever you're done with football, I might have a job for you." And so that just right then, that was tattooed in my brain as if football doesn't work out, this is what I want to do. Yeah, and it wasn't a big shock to my parents that I said that because when career day came around in preschool or elementary school, I wanted to come as a wrestler, but they didn't let me, so I had to be dressed as a baseball player.
So how long after that meeting with Jim Ross was football no longer like how long after the meeting with JR was wrestling on the table?
Wrestling really always on the table. The big turning point for football is when I got injured uh, going into my senior year, and then had a really bad pro day where I pulled my hamstring, and you just could see where things weren't going to go my way
Hmm.
for football. I had small chances here and there in the NFL, and I ultimately ended up in the CFL playing for the Toronto Argonauts. Great organization, great team. They went on to win the Grey Cup that year, but in my mind, that's not where I wanted to be.
Hmm.
And so I called Jim Ross up, and I said, "Hey, I think I'm done with football, and I think football's done with me." And he said, "Call me back in 2 weeks. Let's make sure." Call him back in 2 weeks. Now I'm back down in Texas. I've decided I'm done with football. This isn't the football I want to play. If you're wondering, CFL and NFL are there's big differences in the rules, and it wasn't my type of football. And so got back down to Texas, called him up, and he politely said, "Okay, well if we're gonna do that, let's do that. How much you weighing?" And I told him, he goes, "We can't be north of 300 when you show up for tryouts." So that's he set it up where I was going to go to FCW down there in Tampa for a tryout. He told me not to show up um, over 280 pounds, so I showed up right at 280, I think. But that was I had to lose 40 pounds, in a couple of months to get ready for that. Um, luckily it was summertime here in Texas, so that was an issue. But got there, and I'm not gonna lie. When I showed up at FCW, I was like, "This is where you guys train. This this is WWE. This is my dream."
This is
And
pre-performance center days. This is a warehouse.
100%. And there was just four rings that barely fit in this warehouse, and I just couldn't believe this is it. Um, but yeah, and that first day, man, Bill, they put us through the ringer. They were trying to weed some people out, and
Mhm.
they were successful because there was a lot of big boys that did not come back on day two. And that's when I found out about real condition and show condition. I mean, there were guys that I looked, I'm like, wow, that he's perfect. That was the best human being in shape I've ever seen. And then they get blown up after hitting the ropes a couple of times.
Mhm.
So that was a big culture shock. And luckily, that mindset and that condition I had from football carried over very well.
Mhm. So that the tryout that you did, was it a lot of different athletes and wrestlers, or was it just athletes? Because FCW was like the beginning of when they where they focused on bringing like athletes and not just professional wrestlers in to see if wrestling was an option.
So I think I might have been one of the first because at that tryout, there was only two guys there from football.
Hmm.
That they brought in, and they told us the reasoning behind it. They let us know that hey, everyone else is from wrestling. You're the only guys here not from wrestling. Because on day two, they were putting together matches
Hmm.
where we didn't know that you talked in the ring at the time. We didn't know how matches worked. We didn't know you called spots. uh, I threw a shoulder and hit him with my right shoulder and got yelled at the first time by Bill. We didn't know what we were doing in that ring. We were a liability for sure
Hmm.
in that tryout. But the fact that we were able to do the athletic things they want us to do, we were able to run the ropes in the conditioning drill, get up and down in a timely fashion in the drills they want us to do. That showed them enough. And then on day two or three, when we did the promos, the fact that we could put a coherent sentence together and not fumble over ourselves, where a lot of the guys did, I think helped out a lot. So giving you the longest answer possible, uh, yes, they did bring us in just from football, and I think we were one of the first to do that. I know Mojo was also a guy who came in from football that they
Hmm.
knew that had a big athletic background and wanted to use that. I know Baron Corbin was another
Hmm.
one because we had several conversations once I got to the performance center about football, because and the guy that I tried out with actually ended up not taking the deal with WWE. I think he had one more shot with football that he was going to go after.
Do you remember who that was?
I do not. I know he never came back.
Oh,
He big black guy, but he didn't grow up a fan. He was not a wrestling fan whatsoever.
nah.
So I think that had a big thing to do with it. Because I remember Sean Merriman walked into the performance center one time and he hit the ropes and got out of the ring and said, "That's not for me."
So how hard was Bill DeMott to during your tryout to see if this is something you truly wanted?
um, Bill was not hard for me to handle
Mm.
until I got to the performance center and I found out about the Billisms
Hmm.
and how nothing made any sense, and how if you wanted to ask a question, you'd get two answers. You didn't know which one was the right one. Those those I did not enjoy. For the tryout, he was tough. He kicked a lot of guys out of the ring, including myself. I was very fortunate that Norman Smiley was there and came up to Bill and told him I had no clue what I was doing, and they threw me in there just to see what would happen. So then he kind of tapered back on me a little bit and
Hmm.
let me rejoin the conditioning drills and stuff like. Because eventually he after that shoulder tackle, if I hit him on the right side, he pulled me aside. He was about to yell at me, and they stopped. They stopped, and then he just said, "Fine, just go sit at the side for now." So yeah, I definitely got that impression that he was tough. A couple guys had warned me about him. Really, the toughest guy I want to say during the tryouts was Joey.
Hmm.
He was tough on a lot of the guys. he that was his part was a little bit of conditioning, but he was just get in the ring and bump the guys
Hmm.
during that tryout, and he was pretty harsh on them.
How long after your tryout did a developmental deal come about?
After my promo, they pulled me aside and told me that it was a done deal. Jr. was there the final day. Canyon was there this final day, and they told me to just keep. They'll be in touch. Everything looks good, and so I knew that was there. And Jr. was just like, "Hey, get in better shape now. You're south of 300 like we wanted you, but you still have an offensive lineman body."
Hmm.
And I understood exactly what he meant. And so I think it was about 2 more months, maybe three, because they told me it was going to be about 6 weeks,
Hmm.
uh, and then they were going to move to Orlando and then bring me on. Just like anything like that happens, that got delayed a little bit.
Yeah.
So that was the only part was the delays on finishing the Orlando Performance Center. Besides that, they brought me on as quick as possible.
So your only time at the FCW was for the tryouts, and then when you came back, it was Performance Center
Yep.
had opened.
hmm Which I was happy about.
It was a big culture shock.
It was. And well, like I said, I was very fortunate to go to University of Oklahoma, where they have the best of the best.
Hmm. So how was
Uh,
your initial reaction to being in the Performance Center and start training to be a professional wrestler?
so the very first day of the opening of the Performance Center, they obviously bring in the class of 2012. That's the beginning. We all have the same T-shirts, class of 2012. We all take the picture, and then you also see all the real superstars trickle in. And this is my first time getting to meet them. For my tryout, I got to, they one thing I did miss after the tryout, they brought me to a Full Sail live taping, so I
Hmm.
got to see how things worked backstage, and that's when I got to meet a lot of the guys, John Cena, some of the writers, some of the production guys. That's when I realized, oh, Dean Malenko's still around. He's one of the production guys. That's amazing. He's part of the writing cast. That's awesome. Michael Hayes, those guys that I didn't really know that were big time behind the scenes. I could see all those guys again. So
Hmm.
got a little starstruck. I'm not gonna lie, seeing all those guys from when I was younger. Um, the FCW, or not FC, but they were still doing the Full Sail. I told Ladies Bisco that I was a huge Sting fan because I was. I
Hmm.
watched WCW a lot, and I love Sting. I love the Surfer Sting. I love the Crow Sting. He goes on about a 10-minute rant crushing me for liking Sting. He told me they had to take the microphone away from him, put him up in the rafters. It's like, golly.
So
Yeah,
how
so I
how
had a kick out of that one. So going to the Performance Center that first day, seeing everybody come in, seeing Paul Heyman come in for the photo shoots, and just getting to see the facility for the first time. I remember somebody had to tell me that that was Kane when Glenn Jacobs walked in a suit. So yeah, it was great. But you could tell that it wasn't. A lot of the older guys could tell there was a shift.
Hmm.
The Some of the older guys didn't like the mandatory workouts after the ring and stuff like that, which they were starting to run it like a professional football program, and that's kind of what, from my understanding, what Triple H based it off of.
Hmm.
And it was the Jets facility up there with Joe DeFranco. And so they're running it very similar to that with the conditioning and the ring time and then the weights. So I fell into the groove really easily. Some of the older guys who had came from the independent scene who have been doing this for a long time, making money that way, they didn't take to it very well, and I definitely saw both sides of it.
Hmm. I had interviewed Bill DeMott a couple months ago, and he had said the same thing. Everybody thought he was an asshole, which I'm not saying he wasn't, but he's like, if you're being paid to be here, you're going to be here. You're going to work out. You're not just going to collect a check.
100%. Bill did nothing, anything worse than a football coach ever did.
Hmm.
Um, I would take my football days. I would take Bill over any of my football coaches any day. Now, what Bill would do is he wouldn't just MF you in front of everybody. He really, maybe if you were really bad on his bad side, he'd kick you out of the performance, kick you out
Hmm.
of the building. But I only saw that once when I was there. He just the mind games, man. Just hey, it could be a simple spot.
Hmm.
All right, the best example I have is him telling me how to get on the top turnbuckle. And there was three different ways he told me to do it, and there was only one correct way, but the other way that was wrong was the way he did it. So I don't. So I never knew what was the right answer.
I just I've heard so many stories of stuff like that. It's just maybe he was just trying to see if you're being a professional wrestler, you should know how to do it. Like have that mindset. Maybe he was just not jealous, but like irritated that these people were getting opportunities.
there, there was that in
Hmm.
the building. There
Hmm.
really was. Um, I feel like I got along with most everybody. There was a few guys that I, I wanted to get along with, but we just didn't mesh, and so you
Hmm.
just let it. It is what it is. Guys who actually made good money on the independent scene did not. I don't think they liked the football guys coming in
Hmm.
there. And he's still there, so I don't want to speak bad of him, but Sami Zayn was one of them. And I saw the side of him. The guy was a huge name in Canada. Made he probably took a pay cut to be part of the developmental group, so I could see his frustration there. But at the same time, I was just given this opportunity. I didn't, I'm not
Hmm.
gonna say no to it.
Yeah.
And I'm here. I'm putting in the work.
Was there anything you struggled with starting out transitioning into wrestling? Like anything in the ring that was harder than what you thought it
Yeah,
would be?
all of it. um, I will say this. I came in and left a better athlete
Hmm.
from the performance center as far as body control and conditioning, and being able to handle my own body weight
Hmm.
and safely, head and shoulders above where I was in college football. In college football, I was a train moving down the field trying to run people over. At wrestling, you can't do that. You got to take care of yourself and the guy you're in the ring with. And I quickly learned that. And I was really fortunate to my tag partner when I first started, and my roommate was West. What do you want to call him now? Wesley Blake,
Hmm.
Corey Weston,
Hmm.
which um, he was, and he had a good mindset, and he knew, and he came from football too, so he understood um, where I was coming from, and we were both from Texas, so we just got along really well. So he took a lot of time to even when we were at home sitting in the living room, we'd go through reversals, headlocks, simple moves that I could do, and it helped a lot. The biggest thing that I found frustrating was Bill wouldn't let me do a full match, even on house shows.
Hmm.
He was telling me he was hiding me from Vince for the moment, and I was like, all right, well, and I felt like I never got to do as many matches as I
Hmm.
wanted to get better. Um, so that was frustrating. I didn't like that part.
I I can see what he means by that because any big man they had down there like straight to the main roster, throw shit against the wall, see what sticks, and then they're fired.
Yeah, 100%. I thoroughly enjoyed the speaking portion of it.
Hmm.
I took a lot of public speaking classes at OU, and I did that because I wanted to kind of lose my East Texas Southern drawl. But as soon as I get to as soon as I get to WWE, they put me in a cowboy gimmick, and Dusty calls me out for not having a Texas accent the first time. So I got to reverse everything. But um, So I enjoyed that part of it. I enjoyed the in ring part of it. I enjoyed the wrestling as a whole.
Hmm.
Did not enjoy the business part of it. And I know there's a lot of guys that have been successful in WWE that did enjoy the business side of it. So, I know that's not the biggest thing that held me back by
Hmm.
any means.
So, what was your interactions like with Dusty Rhodes?
Loved him. Favorite human, just top five human being on planet Earth. Um, I remember I remember one time we couldn't think. Me and Wesley had just run out of ideas for promo, so we sang "Friends in Low Places," and, and he walked out on us. Uh, and I remember Bill was telling us, he goes, "That was so bad. I think Dusty denounced his cowboyism."
So, whose idea was it for you to be a cowboy?
it, it wasn't hard to put the two and two together. Me and Wesley already lived together. We were both from Texas. He was already helping me with my ring stuff, so it was easy, and it was. And as far as promos go, it just went right. It just rolled off the tongue.
Hmm.
Dusty had mentioned he goes, "Have you ever seen The Cowboy Way?" It's an old movie with Woody Harrelson in it. And basically, you have a serious cowboy and you have an off the hinge cowboy.
Hmm.
And I was the serious cowboy trying to keep Wesley in line all the time, and Wesley was always, it was just easy to feed off of each other. And we're both from Texas. We both lived that lifestyle briefly, so it wasn't hard to come up with promos.
So, as time went on, you'd mentioned that Bill had didn't want Vince to see you, so it kind of held you back a little bit. Was there any plans for you, or did they not get to that because they didn't want Vince to see you?
So I really wanted the tag team to
Hmm.
work. There wasn't a cowboy segment for a while. Billy Gunn loved the idea because him and Bart did it for a long time, and there
Hmm.
really hadn't been a successful cowboy tag team duo since then in everyone's mind. And me and Wesley agreed, and me and Billy Gunn also just hit it off really well, and I liked his style of wrestling. He showed me how to sell as a big man,
Hmm.
so it was just easy to come to him for that advice. But Dusty, he liked it too. Bill wanted me to do singles. He had
Hmm.
a bigger plan for me, and it never got to that point though. So they broke me off from Wesley doing promos and stuff, and they wanted me to see how I could do as a heel. So I did the heel program promos, and they realized I was good at speaking, so they broke me off from him at the end, and then that's when I had a back injury and then failed a drug test, and then that was the end of that.
They
But
just
there's a little bit more to that. There's that a lot of people don't know.
if it's not something you don't want to dive into, we don't have to.
No,
Okay.
let's
Yeah.
dive into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so what had happened was me and Wester were still rooming together, and I took a bump one morning just getting warmed up in the ring with Nick, and I just had shooting pain tingling down my legs. And I knew I had a couple of stress fractures left over from football,
Hmm.
so I just figured I'd re-agitated that. And this was all around the same time as my birthday, so I got injured, had that weekend off. So did a couple of the other guys, and we celebrated my birthday. And then unfortunately, I got popped with a drug test the following week. Wasn't nervous about it. I'd been in sauna, did what I was supposed to do to think I could clear it. Unfortunately, I didn't. Uh, and so took it. They let me know that they were going to suspend me for 30 days. Perfect. I knew that going into it. Those are the rules. Um, then they Canyon called me in, and he was like, "Hey, me and Bill want to talk to you." I was like, "All right." You know, I understand. I deserve whatever tongue lashing they're going to give me and the
Hmm.
30-day suspension. I walk in, Bill darts into his office, doesn't make eye contact with me. I'm like, oh, I'm getting fired. So I walked into Canyon's office. He just tells me he'll let me go. And so I just looked at him. I was like, all right, well, I understand. There's a three strike policy, though, 30-day suspension. and y'all haven't let me get on NXT really,
Hmm.
so I'm not. And he just told me this is the decision we're making. I said, okay, turn in my badge or go home. And I get a phone call. That was probably on a Thursday, I believe, and I got a phone call Friday from Canyon again, relaying a message from Paul Triple H saying, "Hey, here's what we're going to do. We are going to let you go, but we're going to bring you back. What we're going to do is we're making an example out of this drug test with the new performance center." I
Hmm.
said, "Okay." I didn't sit well with me. I was like, "Guys, I'm also kind of hurt, and y'all let me go."
Hmm.
And they did nothing wrong, but it just rubbed me the wrong way. So I moved back to Texas a week later, just started bartending and stuff like that. And then JR gives me a call. We talk on the phone. I'm in the parking lot of a Crunch Fitness about 8 o'clock at night. And he goes, "Well, you want to come back? We can do it, but, I need to know this isn't going to happen again." And I told him the truth. I was like, "Man, we went out for a birthday. This is an isolated incident." It, but I told them I didn't appreciate this, being let go. And then they told me they were bringing me back, but it wouldn't be at the same pay.
Oh,
And I was
okay.
like, can't do it. Just can't do it.
Hmm.
So
Because
yeah,
now,
that was the end of that.
because now you're not an athlete. Now you're just a wrestler. Big difference in starting pay there, I would say.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So there was always the offer was always on the table to come back, but I didn't love the business enough
Hmm.
to do that. Some and guy, and I don't blame any guys for coming back and taking that reduced pay and living out their dream.
Hmm.
That just at that moment in time, I was bitter about it. It wasn't no longer my dream, and I wanted to move on.
Hmm.
Um, that being said, I still go up to Oklahoma. I've spoken to Jr. several times since then. We haven't spoke about wrestling, but we still communicate. Still good. We're still associates,
Was
which
there?
I'm grateful for that.
Oh yeah, that's the beautiful thing about wrestling. Sometimes is the people you meet along the way.
Mhm. Yeah. We got a there's a good friend of mine, LA Knight. Uh, it's the only wrestling shirt I have. uh, he was in California, and when he got the call to come back, he drove through Texas, stayed with us for a few days, and then went on to Florida. And catching up with him was great. And same thing. He goes, "Hey man, you're still in shape. You still work out every day." No, I can't do it. I can't do it. And we even talked about what he was getting, and his offer was great.
Hmm.
So he took it, but then he also told me what they were kind of giving the startup guys, and it still wasn't
Hmm.
enticing enough to me to make that for me to mentally try to make that jump again.
Oh yeah, no. Even that, I don't think that the starting pay now it's you would still need a roommate to be okay.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
Man, I got a house in Dallas now. I can't. I got a family. I can't take a step backwards yet.
Oh no. So was there any other coaches that worked with you that you had a good relationship with more than others?
Norman Smiley, hands down. Have you heard anyone say anything bad about him?
Never.
No,
Not
it's
not
not the.
one word.
He's got the best stories. He can relate to anyone, absolutely anyone. You know, he was a big hit with the British guys
Mhm.
because he did a lot of stuff overseas,
Mhm.
across the pond. He also called he also called a lot of the English guys out with some of their humor and some of their jokes. Because they like to rhyme stuff and slide some insults in there every once in a
Mhm.
while to get to throw over our heads. But Norman knew all that, so I appreciate that because I also quickly caught on. Man, he was one of the favorite stories. He was telling me he was in Japan and he's getting ready for his match, and it's a different style of wrestling over there. It's more controlled shoot. He said
Mhm.
the moves are real, but it's controlled. And he was tried to communicate with his opponent, and the guy was just looking at him. And he just, all right, this guy doesn't speak English. Got it. So he's in the ring and he's kind of being stiff with him, and Norman's trying to communicate with him. Out of frustration, Norman grabs the guy and throws him. And Norman was not a small human being, especially when he was working out.
Mhm.
And then he goes over and gets the guy, and the guy looks up at him and goes, "Nice throw." And then he goes, "The match went smoothly after that. We communicated the whole
So when you decided not to go back to WWE, did you ever have the thought of like doing stuff on the indies? Did anybody ever reach out, or was that just that door was closed?
No, that definitely, Nick wanted me to go up to OVW, and then why I say, I really don't want to do that. I've heard those stories. He goes, all right, then let's go to Japan. You can get over there and then come back.
Kentucky or Japan? Your choice.
Yeah. I was like, no, I don't think so. And he goes, you understand? It'll be great over there. I was like, I get it, big fish, small pond kind of thing, but
Mhm.
no. And then I got into strongman.
Mhm.
The reason I got into strongman is I was friends with I don't want to say the wrong name, Braun Strowman,
Mhm.
and so and he did strongman for a long time, and we talked about it because I also like to lift weights, and I lifted him one day in the performance center, and that's when we really started talking about strongman and his lifts and stuff like that. So I did strongman after about 4 years after wrestling. I got the itch to start doing things again and being competitive. Did that for a long time. Competed at Worlds. Got to about the stage where Adam or where Braun got to.
Mhm.
Um, Now I'm 34. My back's a little tight, and there's also no money in strongman. So that was another deciding factor, and that was actually just this past year when I stopped doing it. I mean, at one point in time, I was 350 pounds doing strongman, just getting out of breath, tying my shoes, blood pressure through the roof. um, so yeah, this past year I decided to stop doing that. But with that being said, I had a couple of guys reach out to me in the DFW
Mhm.
promotions here, wanting me to come and do some things. And I actually went over to one of the facilities in Fort Worth. Um, do you know that cable ropes
Mhm.
and uh, real ropes, they're not the same?
No.
So I found that out. And also, I took a bump and I was like, no.
No.
And then the guy was like, hey, man, I know that was rough. Don't worry about it. We'll put you as a tag partner and people bump around you. And I was like, no, I don't want that either. That's not fair to the other guys.
So how was your overall experience with WWE?
Um, Let me say this. I was not part of the FCW, so I don't have those crazy. I mean, there's some crazy stories I
Mhm.
heard from OVW. The developmental center was a lot more. It was watched a lot more. I mean, they had cameras everywhere,
Mhm.
and Bill watched those cameras. I'm pretty sure when I was there, they had a camera in everything but the locker room, for obvious, yeah. And I liked the guys. I liked the camaraderie. I didn't like the I didn't like the politics. I didn't like how you could put heat on somebody for no reason.
Mhm.
Literally, just you could say anything and put heat on somebody. I didn't. The group of guys I was with, you had Bo and you had Corey
Mhm.
as the locker room leaders, pretty much. And as long as you were respectful to the business, you did what you need to in the ring, you didn't step on toes in promo class, it was fine. I never had a problem with those two. I loved those guys. Um, when they came to Dallas for WrestleMania, what was that, back in 2016?
Mhm.
Somewhere around there?
Mhm.
I got a chance to go. They gave me tickets to it, and then they let me go backstage when they had the NXT event in the Cowboy Center. Everyone was so nice to me. Billy was there. Billy Gunn was there. Corey was there. That's when Corey had just transitioned over to the announcement group,
Hmm.
announce table. Um, Bo was still there. Great. Those guys hadn't changed. They were still the leaders that they were when I left. I mean, they're out. They're outrageous. They pulled some funny stuff. But what do you expect? We're around each other, 10 plus hours a day in that performance center. Uh, on the girl side, man, I feel like there was some drama. I don't know where she's at now, but was it Tanil
Hmm. Emma.
from Australia? Yeah,
Yeah.
Emma. Golly, she would hold meetings, and you, why? Why are you demanding these things? And you could see guys roll their eyes at some of the things she was saying, talking about how people need to tone down their entrances, because the champions need to have. All right, well, get more creative with your entrance. Well, these guys are trying to get to the main roster. This is what the point of this development group is, in my mind.
Hmm.
But I didn't come from that same background as they did.
If you had any advice to give to anybody getting into professional wrestling or sports, or strongman in general, what would that be?
Be humble.
Mm.
Be humble. I was humbled so quickly when I got to wrestling. Chaz Betts, Olympic wrestler, 175 pounds. I think he was 200 pounds when he walked into the developmental center. I'd been there for about a year, and I was uh, the leader of my ring group,
Hmm.
and I was just giving him a hard time, and he was like, "All right, man, I'll roll you up pretty quick," and I'm like, "All right, stay in your own weight class." He's 200 pounds. He's how tall do they think he is? 6 foot. All right, he's 5'9", 200 pounds at this time. He's probably grown. And, I'm 6'6", 275. I was like, yeah, whatever. No, he did. Uh, he he let me grab a hold of him, and I tried to throw him around, and I wore myself out, and he pinned me so quick. Dude, yeah, he did that. Who else did that to me? God, Gary. Uh, Gary almost knocked me out in the locker room one time. I thought I had him. I was on top of him, and I thought I had him, and he rolled out of it, and I didn't know what was going on. I flipped and hit my head on the concrete, and I was seeing stars for a while, and that was the last time I messed with the collegiate wrestlers.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, you guys are on a different level. It's all
Hmm.
you. And then Clayton Jack, no, I think he was an All American in Oregon. I knew better to mess with him.
Where can people reach out to you at?
So I, I'm curious, how did you find that thick but quick email?
What did I have to? I It took some time. I had to go
I,
through different links, and I just took a shot, and then I got a response. It took
I feel like you did that the hard way.
I did.
My Instagram was just Stephen Cole Good.
I
uh,
did. I took the scenic route.
yeah, the thick but quick email. Me and my better half, Christina, we also run a training program. My background in professional football, a little bit of wrestling, and strongman. She also played, the women's football league. She also did strongman. We both competed at a high level, so we do our own training program, tejostraining.co. And we work with a lot of athletes in strongman, and we also work with a lot of athletes who had similar problems like I did, with back issues and shoulder issues. There was a while there for strongman. This last time I went to Worlds, I thought I was going to have to pull out because of a back injury. And she actually took over my training and my rehab and was able to strengthen my core and decompress some of the spinal issues that had occurred while deadlifting and doing those heavy yokes.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, that's kind of what we do now is take these old battered athletes like myself. And we heal them up. We get them on a good training program. It's helped a lot. She also just does general fitness well. She's very good. Um, she deals with a lot of people with maybe underlying issues where they think they can't lift weights.
Hmm.
People think lifting weights is, such an extreme thing when it's not. It's very helpful to for everything in my life. It is really helped with stress, injuries, you know, frustration. It'll help with. Um, but I do want to leave you with one more story.
Okay.
So at one point in time, I had gotten a massive cauliflower ear. They had drained 4 cc's of blood out of that ear. So, and we were practicing headlocks after headlock after headlock. And I show back up with this thing on my ear and I can't get in the ring. And Norman goes, "What the hell happened?" I go, "I got cauliflower ear from all those headlocks we were doing yesterday." And he looks around, makes sure, this, and he goes, "This shit's fake, right?"
Oh, that sounds just like stories everybody else says about him. He's
Yeah,
just the best person to be around.
absolutely. Um, Man, let's talk about LA Knight real quick. Let's talk
Okay.
about my boy. He
Okay.
just became champion. He beat the YouTube star. He's in my book, man. I couldn't be prouder. What do you think?
I was actually there live. I got to cover some WWE events these last year and a half as the media, and I got to be there live for it. And seeing where where he almost went when they thought he was too old to wrestle versus where he's
Yeah,
at now
yeah,
is an amazing. It's an amazing journey to watch happen. With the changing of the guards, a lot of stuff changes.
absolutely. I remember watching him on the reality show Hero before I even came to the Performance Center, and he walked in, and I was one of the few people that recognized him. I got made fun of quite a bit for that because he was not accepted that first time around in the Performance Center. They did not give him a good chance and that's my opinion.
Mhm,
A lot of the guys didn't like him. I actually got a little bit of heat for being friends with him. I wore that SR shirt, that V-neck
mhm.
SR shirt, to a lot of WWE events while we were unloading the ring when they wouldn't let him go. So we've been good friends ever since, and I'm extremely happy to see him get to where he's always deserved to be.
Absolutely, and it's nice to see that. It sucks. It's good and it's bad with people with the changing of the guard because there's a lot of people who were in his position that they don't get that second chance, and it's nice to see that they did give him a second chance, and this is truly, the star power that he has and his athletic ability and how good he truly is. We almost didn't get to see any of that.
No, and I want to give him all the praise in the world about that because a lot of guys, they leave and they go back to the indie and that's just kind of where they end up and that's not their fault.
Hmm.
I don't know how he did it, but he somehow made himself a bigger brand
Hmm.
when he left WWE. He made himself a bigger brand and he didn't just do that. I mean, yes, his wrestling was great. I mean, every time I see him go straight to the top rope for a superplex, I lose my mind. But he was doing commercials. He was out there in LA and he was pushing himself.
Hmm.
So I hats off to him. Love it.
It's nice to see that every sometimes things do come full circle.
Absolutely.
Well, if there's ever anything that I could do, please feel free to reach out. Thank you for what you've done for professional wrestling and what you are doing now. Developmental is a different journey for different people, and I hate that most people just associate it with Cena, Orton, Lesnar, and Batista. But there's so many men and women who have a journey and have a story to tell, and I just want to thank you for coming on and talking a little bit about your journey.
Absolutely. And I love that you're doing this. A lot of these guys who went through this, they don't ever get to speak about it because
Hmm.
not many people know about it. So I was very happy to come on and get to talk about it. If there's anybody you ever want to reach out to, maybe that I'm still friends with, let me know. I'd love to do that. And if you ever want me back, I'd be happy to do it.
Absolutely, sir.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you.